Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Karras. Welcome to this episode of the Hamburgers and Hot Rods podcast. The title of today's show is Naugles. It's time for a Naugles run. With the completion of this episode, we will conclude our series on 5 of Southern California's pioneering drive-thru restaurant chains. As the final episode in the series, today we feature a 70s-born nostalgic local drive-thru restaurant chain, Naugles, which has a fascinating history with a wonderful comeback story we are excited to share. To help us tell the second chapter of the Naugles story, a little bit later in the show, I'm pleased to announce 3 executives from Naugles will be joining us to share the exciting things happening at the revived chain today. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Founded in 1970 by Dick Naugle and originally based in Riverside, California, Naugles grew from a single fast food restaurant in Riverside, offering both drive-thru and dine-in service, into a multi-state 275-location restaurant chain. Dick Naugle was born on November 28, 1912, in Fort Scott, Kansas. Around 1923, his family moved from Kansas to Portland, Oregon, when Dick was 10 years old. Dick didn't like living in Portland, and after 2 years there, at age 12, Dick left home. First, he headed to Porterville, California, then to Santa Rosa, where he found work in a dairy. After a couple of years, Dick moved to Delta, Colorado, and found work on a dairy there. Soon, he headed to Denver and took a job selling watermelons. After a short stay in Colorado, Dick decided to return to California, but this time he headed for sunny Southern California. Landing in Los Angeles, Dick found work in a South Los Angeles area coffee shop. After about a year, Dick took a job as a busboy at another Los Angeles area coffee shop, which was known for its sandwiches. Within 6 months at that restaurant, Dick found his way into the kitchen and began cutting sandwiches. Within a year there, he was promoted to night manager, and his love for food service took roots. He eventually migrated to Santa Monica. Dick loved the ocean and the beach community and found work in a private club. Dick eventually married and started his family. In 1935, during the Depression, Dick relocated his family to Riverside, California. Dick worked at a lunch counter making $6 per day. He was drawn to food service during these years because even though the times were hard for many people, Dick believed no matter what, people need to eat. Recognizing the opportunities that the citrus industry offered in Riverside's rich agricultural area, and drawing from his earlier experience with produce selling watermelons back in Colorado, Dick started selling oranges from a fruit stand he built at the corner of Main Street and West 8th Street in Riverside. During World War II, Dick served in the Army and Air Force Exchange Service, where he served as the general manager of retail and food facilities. This further developed Dick's knowledge of food service. He eventually was promoted to major and given the responsibility for each of the food service facilities throughout 11 western states. Around 1960, Dick returned home to Riverside after retiring from the service. He began offering consulting services to local restaurant operators that needed assistance with the design and layout of their operations. Shortly thereafter, Dick began also selling restaurant fixtures and equipment. His experience in the service helped him in business, and he soon was known in the area's food service community as a real problem solver. Dick helped many of the Inland Empire's restaurants develop new ways of improving their food service models. In 1964, Dick began his 6-year stint with Del Taco, when he provided Del Taco with the restaurant kitchen equipment for the first Corona Del Taco located at 3rd Street. At the time, the partners of Del Taco were operating under the name of Casa Del Taco. Dick was so impressed with the concept, he immediately signed on as a partner alongside Ed Hackbarth and Corona native David Jameson. Ed and Dave together already had established Casa Del Taco restaurants in Yermo, 2 in Barstow, and a 4th location in Needles, California. As the third partner, Dick signed the lease for the Corona property, which was the first location to adopt the shorter name of simply Del Taco. The location would also offer drive-thru service. While other Southern California operators already had established drive-thru service by the early 1960s, Dick incorporated revolutionary new kitchen designs and food handling techniques for this reimagined concept. Dick's design for the new location's drive-thru allowed for the restaurant to move as many as 2 to 3 cars a minute through the restaurant's drive-thru lane during peak hours. These new processes really enhanced this still incredibly young food service concept of delivering food through a drive-up window fast. Del Taco adopted Dick's new drive-thru service model design for its other restaurant locations. The three partners soon opened a second restaurant in Corona located at 210 South Lincoln Avenue at the freeway and was originally run under the name Del Panther. Due to the configuration of the property at the time, Del Panther initially only offered walk-up service. It was built to serve the students at Corona High School. The partners chose the name Del Panther for the location to pay homage to the school's mascot, the Panther, and to distinguish it from the existing Del Taco already serving the city. However, because the location was close to the freeway, soon thereafter, Ed and Dave asked Dick to redesign the Del Panther restaurant into a Del Taco concept, which would also offer drive-thru service. Dick redesigned the location to become Corona's second Del Taco, which now included a drive-thru lane. The new model offered patrons more convenient and faster service. On May 5, 1966, the three partners incorporated Red E Food Systems Corp., a franchisor to franchise Del Taco units. Dick led the venture, and Red E Foods established 10 units under the new model, each of which were very profitable. In 1967, Red E Foods, under Dick's leadership, also developed and designed a food commissary and warehouse for Del Taco. At the time, Del Taco was growing at a rapid pace, and Dick drew from his military experience to assist supplying the chain's needs during the chain's fast expansion. The new commissary operation served as the sole supplier for all of the chain's restaurant locations. In 1970, at age 56, Dick decided it was time for him to go out on his own, and he left Del Taco to open his first Naugles drive-thru restaurant. Located at 4407 Brockton Avenue in Riverside, the first Naugles restaurant and an adjacent small corporate office was built on a corner parcel at the southwest corner of the intersection of Brockton Avenue and 14th Street. Red E Food Systems Corp. Was renamed Del Taco Inc. in 1973. Today, Naugles' original location is still in operation as Del Taco, store number 301. Dick Naugle was a stickler for perfection. His motto, well known by his patrons, was simple and direct: prepare food fresh, serve customers fast, keep plates clean. Offering 2 menus, Naugles customers could choose items from the restaurant's American kitchen or Spanish kitchen menus. From hamburgers and french fries to tacos and burritos, Naugles customers can order fresh food at a good price, served fast by a friendly Naugles associate. In the 1970s into the 1980s, Naugles was a favorite hangout for Southern California teenagers, as it was a pioneer in operating 24-hour fast food restaurants. High school and college students often chose Naugles as their go-to late-night dining spot. Many times, teenagers would head to Naugles after midnight, either after a night of car cruising, partying, or other late-evening gatherings when most other dining establishments had closed hours before. An almost universal phrase among Southern California teenagers was the expression, "It's time for a Naugles run." Often, this meant one of the group's members would go to the nearest Naugles for menu choices such as macho burritos and Naugles french fries and bring the food back to the gathering. Sometimes the phrase meant the whole group would head to Naugles. Either way, the expression represented that some good grub was in store for the group. In 1972, at age 59, Dick Naugle sold most of his shares of Naugles to his friend Harold Butler. Harold was the founder of Danny's Donuts, which started in 1953 and later became Denny's. He also was instrumental in many other Southern California eateries, including Winchell's Donut House and JoJo restaurants. Dick stepped back from the lead role at Naugles shortly thereafter, but he continued to help represent Naugles as needed with public speaking and other ceremonial duties until he finally retired at age 77 in 1988. During Butler's time at the helm of Naugles, he built several Naugles units on adjacent parcels to his JoJo restaurant locations. By 1976, Fountain Valley was listed as store number 44 in the April edition of the company's newsletter of that year, The Underground Beef. Butler sold most of his interest in Naugles in November of 1984 to Collins Food International, Inc. of Los Angeles, which gave Collins about 41% of the Naugles outstanding shares, and the transaction made Collins the controlling shareholder of the company. Collins at the time held other food franchises, including many Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants, and it was the owner of the steakhouse chain Sizzler. In 1988, Naugles was sold to AWR2 Acquisition Corp., which was owned by Anwar Solomon, a Newport Beach, California businessman who also owned American Restaurant Group. The deal also included the purchase of the remaining Naugles shares still held by Dick Naugle. American Restaurant Group, at the time, owned or franchised 360 restaurant outlets, including the Velvet Turtle, Stuart Anderson's Black Angus, National Sports Grill, and Spoon's California Grill, among others. Anwar also closed a separate purchase transaction of Del Taco, Inc., which at the time was based in Costa Mesa, California, and was privately held. Shortly after both acquisitions were completed, Solomon merged the two brands. From 1988 through early 1995, the Naugles banner continued, but many locations during this period were either closed or rebranded as Del Taco restaurants. The original Naugles brand disappeared when the last operating Naugles restaurant location in Carson City, Nevada, was closed by Del Taco in 1995. Dick Naugle died of emphysema on May 26, 1998, in his adopted hometown of Riverside at Parkview Community Hospital. At the time of his death, Ed Hackbarth, Dick's former business partner at Del Taco, said, "I'm just proud I got to know the man. He was a very hard-working man, day to day." Southern California's fondness for Naugles has never died. In August 2006, food blogger Christian Zebarth posted a quick story about his memories of eating at Naugles in the 80s on his OC Mexican Restaurants blog, which he started a year earlier. The post received a lot of attention across the internet, so Christian, sensing the interest, continued updating his blog post with Naugles memorabilia. After receiving so much feedback on how Naugles' past patrons pined for the food of their teen youth, Christian created a petition to Del Taco to return some of the former Naugles menu items, even if just for limited time offerings. In 2008, Del Taco reached out to Christian and listened to his pitch. The Del Taco representative indicated that she liked the idea and that she would forward it to the leadership team at Del Taco. This exchange with Del Taco gave Zebarth hope. But after 2 years had passed and Del Taco never acted on his suggestion, Christian decided that Del Taco didn't seem to want to embrace the Naugles brand. So he set out to resurrect the abandoned brand by challenging Del Taco over the Naugles trademark use. On December 20, 2010, Zebarth filed a petition with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office requesting that the Del Taco claim to the Naugles trademark be canceled for non-use or abandonment of the trademark name. After a 5-year battle, Christian's petition request was granted, and on July 29, 2015, the Del Taco trademark registration was canceled. On May 20, 2020, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office formally issued formal registration of the Naugles trademark for restaurant services in response to Christian's 2010 petition. It's interesting to note that 14 years after the last Naugles turned off the lights, the interest in Naugles never faded. A Facebook group called Naugles Fan Page was created on January 30, 2009, and today boasts over 12,000 members. It's that ongoing brand loyalty which serves as one of the reasons today why Naugles lives on, serving its original, fresh, American and Mexican food in Orange County. Resurrected by new founders, Naugles opened its first new restaurant in 20 years in Fountain Valley, California, on July 25th, 2015. Today, the company operates 3 locations, including stores in Fountain Valley, Stanton, and a seasonal beachfront location at Huntington Beach. Once again, Naugles Associates are honoring Dick Naugles' credo and serving its old menu favorites using Dick's original, recreated recipes to hungry guests in search of good food and friendly service. It's an honor for us today to have 3 special guests join us to share more about the resurrection of this beloved brand. Please help me welcome Josh Maxwell, Naugles' Chief Executive Officer, Frank Farini, Corporate Secretary and Vice President of Investor Relations, and Naugles' co-founder and president, Christian Zebarth, to the show. Welcome to the Hamburgers and Hot Rods podcast. We're sure pleased to have you all join us today.
Well, happy to be here. This is great.
Thanks, Jim.
So, Josh, why don't you go ahead and introduce your team?
My name is Josh Maxwell. I'm the CEO of Naugles. We have Frank Farini, who is President of Investor Relations, and Christian Zebarth, who is the President.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for being with us. So tell us, what's happening at Naugles? How are things going?
Oh, they're going nuts. It's been going crazy lately. Of course, with COVID hitting 6-8 months ago, it's put a strain on all restaurants, and we are not excluded for that. We have had to really tighten the belt and go down and push through, but we have actually been doing extremely well. We've been coming out of it pretty well over the last few months. Over the last 2 to 3 months, we've had a lot of growth, a lot of opportunities come our way, and we're really excited about, even though this is a time when a lot of businesses are struggling, we're actually finding new opportunities to be able to go out and expand.
That's really great to hear. We know you have a following. We'll certainly talk about that. Would you share a little bit about why and how Naugles came back to life after a 20-year hiatus?
You know something? The best person to be able to talk about that would be Christian. He's got all that down. He's got the history. He's got the beginning. That's all him. Christian, why don't you take this?
So how did Naugles come back? Well, Naugles, from what I found, never really left people's hearts and passions and emotions and memories. I found this out when I was more active in doing my Mexican food blog around 2006, 2007, and I put up a very brief mention of Naugles one time, just because I remembered it. I said, I remembered it, I liked it, wondered if anybody else remembered it. I thought I might get, a comment or 2 or 3, but just that one little mention kind of resulted in an avalanche of expressed interest and traffic to my site, and many comments and many people talking about how they wish Naugles was back, and their memories were very vivid. This really stood out a lot. It seemed to be more interest in Naugles than there were for many restaurants that were open and operating at that time. To me, that makes me think, hey, there's something to work with here. Maybe Naugles could come back. At that time, I believed Del Taco to probably have trademark rights and intellectual property rights. I really didn't know. I just presumed that was probably the case. And because of my Mexican food blog connections I did know somebody over there, and I was able to meet with them for lunch one time. And we talked about, many things that were not Naugles related at all, but related to Del Taco and Mexican food in the county and other such restaurants and stuff. And near the end of the conversation, Naugles came up, and I suggested that they could bring Naugles back in some way. I didn't have any firm idea how that could be. Like, I was kind of thinking maybe they could have a Naugles submenu where they don't do, they still have all their regular Del Taco stuff, but they have a submenu that says here's 4 or 5 Naugles items that don't really match what's on the Del Taco menu, but are Naugles things that people remember, and they could, give it 3 to 6 months. They could have it in all their, roughly 500 stores, and that could be some way where it could be said, hey, they brought Naugles back. They did express some interest, a little bit. A little bit later, they said that they wanted me to go in and meet with their marketing people about it. That meeting never got arranged. I wrote to them a couple times saying, is this going to go through? They said, yeah, it'll go through. And it never did. I ended up waiting over a year. And because of conversations I was having with other people, I was tipped off to the intellectual property kind of like legal point that trademarks if you hold them, you need to be using them. And if you are not using them and a certain amount of time passes, then the trademark could be considered abandoned. Well, that got me researching more. I talked to lawyers I knew. I talked to lawyers I was referred to. There's a lot of discussion going on. 2 or 3 different lawyers from different firms said, we think you probably have a case here to move forward and show that they abandoned the trademark. And then I did move forward with what is, it's not necessarily taking the registration or the trademark from them, but filing for a new registration and then moving to cancel theirs. That was a little over 10 years ago. So this has been going on for about a decade. And then, yes, so that's when the whole trademark case started.
Really fascinating.
And I think at some point you, Jim, came in and started seeing what was kind of transpiring with that.
Yeah, I followed. You know, it's interesting. I don't. You and I don't think have ever spoke about this, but I followed your blog before the first Naugles post went up early on, back when, you know, the internet was still young in those days.
Yep.
When it came times you were really getting serious about the trademark stuff, you know, I was very interested. I was a little bit familiar with your challenges, and
Okay.
yeah, it was just a phenomenal story. Just a phenomenal story, and such a great outcome. You know, the other part of this is that's just one piece. What people may not realize is that just says, okay, now go ahead and do the next step, which is make it come to life. You know, pretty amazing. And that in and of itself, you know, was what, 10 years? I guess finally they granted your petition. After the trademark was actually canceled for Del Taco, it still took a while for your use for restaurant services to actually be granted, right? Didn't that happen just not too long ago?
Correct. That finally wrapped up in May of this year. We still had, you know, 1, 2, and then 3 restaurants running, even while we were still fighting the trademark battle, and we were not really broadcasting that much that we were still fighting. We did, you know, a couple people knew about it. They did see that may, you know, kind of contributed to slowing things down somewhat. But we were like, that attitude has always been just keep moving forward. It was a decade-long battle, and it was me at first. There were people at the beginning that said that they would help. And then about a year and a half, 2 years into it was when I asked, through conversations between me and Dan, he came on board, and then he introduced Josh into it. Josh then helped find another attorney, and then another attorney, and then that attorney, the third one on the case, is who basically really won the case for us. We kind of wish we had them from the beginning, but we're glad we found out about them when we did and got them on the case.
That's fantastic. So what do you think about the outpouring of support in the resurrection of the beloved brand? It's just astonishing.
Oh, it really has been. The outpouring of support has been actually what has actually helped progress us to where we're at right now. If it wasn't for a lot of the nostalgia and the great memories of Naugles, if we were just Christian and Josh's and Frank's and Dan's burgers and tacos, there's no way we would be having the kind of progress and relationships that we've been able to establish over the last few years. So having the Naugles name and the passion behind it with the fans is one of the things that has actually been able to drive us and help us push us forward. It could also be sometimes a source of frustration, just because Naugles, as it grew and as it expanded as well back in the 70s and 80s, always was evolving. So a lot of the people that remember the Naugles from the 70s, their memory of Naugles would be different than the people who went and hung out in the Naugles in the 80s.
That's correct.
So when we do something which we believe would still be on brand, people will, well, that's not what the original Naugles would do. Well, which version do you remember? And don't forget that Naugles, even now, if it was still around, would continue to evolve. It was always ahead of the times in what it was doing. They were the first ones with the breakfast burritos. They were the first one that they invented an inline cooling system for the sodas. That is now industry standard. There were a lot of things that Naugles, you know, the first 24-hour drive-thru. They were the first ones to do all this. They were the first ones to always set these standards. And
they had the shot clock at the drive-thru too.
Exactly, yeah. Even things like that. Those were all invented by Naugles, and they were always trying to be the first one to hit the next level. And so that's where, like I said, it kind of gets frustrating but at the same time, it shows the passion that a lot of the fans of Naugles have, to where if they perceive that something isn't what they remembered, they really do get very passionate about it and very boisterous about it. And we're just like, hey, this, there were different versions of Naugles. Naugles would have still evolved. That's what we're trying to do, is now bring it into the modern age. So but at the same time, if it wasn't for those people, we wouldn't be on your podcast.
Yeah, let me jump in there. I want to talk about a common denominator. I think all of us has experienced, and I probably, Jim, yourself, even talking to people about Naugles, is the one thing we have all experienced is whenever we say Naugles, this is the reaction the most of the time, 85% of the time. Naugles? You mean Naugles? You mean the Naugles? Oh my God, I remember Naugles. It was my youth. It was my childhood. We used to go there and eat after the football games. We'd go there and eat after school. We'd go find out who was there. We would want to know wherever we want to know the party, we'd go there. I mean, something that Christian said the other day in a meeting was Naugles we can be considered the original social networking.
Yeah, it's so true.
But the zealot fans that all across the country that I speak with people, and we'll get into that a little later, it's always the same. Naugles. What do you mean? You mean Naugles? And it's almost like when they say it, you have to kind of back up a little bit, because it's very intense. It's not just, oh, I remember Naugles. Oh, that's right. It's always Naugles. What do you mean Naugles? So, and it's a beautiful thing. Obviously, it works for us.
It's just amazing the emotion that is attached to it. So like I said, you're the fifth in the series on drive-thru, right? All historical brands, all Southern California-based brands, all really great establishments, or quite frankly, I wouldn't have wasted my time with them. They all have a great story, but undoubtedly, Naugles is the one that I spent the most time talking about. As soon as I mention it, everybody has a story to share about their fondness and experience spending time at Naugles. I did a show on cruising Whittier Boulevard, and we spent probably 10 minutes on Naugles, which is 2 miles away from the boulevard at the time, the old store in La Mirada. And
was freight dumping grounds.
Yeah, it just shows you how it's intertwined in so many people's early lives. And that's what is so great about the brand. I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing. You're going to give a lot of us a chance to relive some of the great times in our lives. I have a question. How about how you approached recreating the original recipes? I know it was a labor of love, but can you tell us a little bit about how you set out to develop the menu and capture those original recipes?
Some of that would probably count as trade secrets. I will say that there was some investigating, some sleuthing. Nothing was ever sneaky or dishonest or theft or anything like that. But there are different people that knew different things about the recipes and had differing amounts of knowledge about them. I was able to, get different bits and pieces here and there and take them to our chef, who was just, I couldn't have done it with information I had. I had to take that information I gathered and take it to our chef, and he was able to just very wizard-like recreate things. And it was just a few stabs at each sauce or recipe or seasoning or whatever, and he had it down really good. And we've had people say this tastes just like it. With some of the information, we broke things down to their more natural components so that there's no MSG. It doesn't rely on brand names that were mentioned a couple times in the original recipes. And so it's really, actually what we're doing is an improvement on what they did before.
Absolutely.
And that was the trick, is that we knew that the food consumer today is a lot more, I guess, savvy or health conscious than they were 30, 40 years ago. So what the trick was making sure that we came up with the original flavors, but using natural spices and fresh spices to be able to recreate the flavors that they're looking for, without using artificial preservatives, without using artificial flavors, without using any fillers, without using MSG. A lot of the stuff that was in the food in the 70s and 80s, which, to be honest, back then they didn't care. They just cared how it tastes. People care now. And so we had to find a way to be able to replicate those flavors, but using fresh spices to be able to do it.
The thing is, from my perspective, as I watched you guys go through the startup phase and get ready to launch, what was available in the public domain, mainly on the Facebook group and other forums to the pop-ups and stuff, we were hearing bits and pieces, and from my perspective, you really took great care to walk that tightrope between doing just what you said, creating food for today's palates and for today's health-conscious priorities, yet still recreating that essence, if you will, of folks' memories of what the food tasted like. And I know that's been a challenge for you in the restaurants, and you've just nailed it, honestly.
Well, we knew, and I think originally, Josh, Dan, and Christian knew that bringing this back in itself, the nostalgia is all well and good. But, in the marketplace now, if in fact people bit into our food and it was just like the other guys and it was okay and it wasn't going to fly, it would have worn off. The nostalgia would have been, we would have been here, would have been gone. It would have been, oh, remember Naugles tried to come back. We know, and we're doing it now, and Josh will attest this, Christian will attest this, we're constantly tasting, smelling, touching our product to make sure. The goal is we can have a pretty color, we can have pretty branding, we can have pretty everything. It can look like $1 billion company, but if the food doesn't wow people, then we're not doing our job.
Right. And even something as simple as the beans. In the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of animal stock that was inside of it to help give it the flavor. But we know now there's a lot more vegetarians out there than there ever was 30 years ago. This is something that is very important to people when they're eating healthy. A lot of people are going on the vegetarian diet. So what we did was we had to take that out, but yet maintain the flavor by finding the right blend of oils and spices to be able to put it in there to make sure it's fully vegetarian, or even vegan, to be honest with you, to be vegan, but yet still bring back that flavor that people remember.
And what's so astonishing about it is, like I said, in all the accounts you see on social media when people describe the experience, from Yelp to the Facebook and all across social media, and in the restaurants, they say, wow, this tastes just like I remember it. Even though it may have been, modified to today's palates, you're still creating that essence of years before, and it's sure been enjoyable to see. After the first official opening day, which I believe was on a Wednesday, in July 15th, 2015, what are some of the things you've learned over the past 5 years to kind of get you where you are today?
A lot.
Yeah, a whole lot. Well, to be honest, the first thing we learned that first week was, wow, this is going to be bigger than we thought. When we we opened it up, we didn't actually even hardly tell anybody that we opened it up. We didn't even have signs on the outside yet, I don't think. We just had a little sign next to the front door, and someone comes in and was like, is this like Naugles? We're like, yeah. Oh, I want the bun taco. I want this taco salad cup. I want that. We're like, okay, you got it. Calm down. And then once it hit Facebook, because, it tasted just like I remembered, and it hit Facebook, we had hundreds of people there within hours. We ran out of food the first day. We couldn't even open the next day because our shipment wasn't expected to be in. And so we were rushing it. And then when we show up, before we even open the door, there was a line, around the building. And that was something that we were not expecting. So that was the first thing that we learned was, this is going to be big. But the second thing we learned was we have to do it right because the passion of the people are going to demand it. So those are the first two lessons that hit you right in the middle of the eyes right away. After that, something? It's been amazing to me how constant the care needs to be with every aspect of the restaurant. With the employees, to the food, to the cleanliness, to misconceptions that are out there. Every little tiny part of the company has been dissected a lot. People are following us. People are watching us. They're seeing what's going to be happening. And that, I think, from the very beginning was very eye-opening to us that we didn't really expect. We thought, oh yeah, we're going to bring back Naugles. A bunch of people are going to like it. That's great. It really kind of hit us immediately that, wow, this is not only going to be a big deal, but it's going to be a big responsibility. That was a big deal to us.
Well, I think you've done a phenomenal job, and every startup, especially from the first soft opening all the way up to full operation, is always a challenge. Add it with the competition of competing against the early years and memories and all those other things that come along with it, and then to do so in the middle of an industrial area, with all those layer of challenges operationally that you guys navigated through, you just have come through it really well.
Yeah, we were fighting the legal battle for about 4 to 5 years before then. And let me tell you, 4 years of legal fees will put a dent in your pocketbook pretty deep.
Sure.
There wasn't a whole lot of money left over when they said, okay, you got to use it. But it was a good spot for us to be able to try new things, to make sure that we had the meat sauce correct, that we had the original sauce correct, that we were able to get our vendors lined up in a row. We didn't want the first location to be a $1 million drive-through with lots of room and everybody coming gathering, because then if we didn't do it right away, all it was, oh, they're just using the name. That's all it is. They're just using the name and they're doing their own thing. We wanted to start in that small little corner to make sure that we had everything lined up and all of our ducks in a row, and we knew exactly what we wanted going forward as we were expanding.
It wasn't necessarily the corporate test kitchen was labeled exactly that, the corporate test kitchen. And I think in the very beginning, the vision was that would be a place where, the food was, the ingredients were re-engineered. It would be a test kitchen. And in the very beginning, it wasn't really, we were going to open this up as an actual, restaurant 7 days a week. It evolved into that because it was just people were knocking on the doors when it was locked, and we were working in the back, or it was the work was done in the back when, when our chef was doing the thing and Josh was in there, Christian was in there, and everybody was in there, saying, okay, how's the cheese sauce that needs to be changed a little bit here and there. So, but, that really was never meant to be like the initial Naugles is back, look at us, because it's very non-traditional to a QSR drive-through especially.
I kind of get the progression of how it occurred and why it occurred, and I know that might not have been your initial vision for a rollout, but I think it did serve you well in this aspect. One is it helped manage expectations.
Mm-hmm.
People realized this was part of a little bit of a science project to launch this brand with care. And many people, well, there were some people I'm sure that were frustrated and came, they had to wait in line. The fact is they had to wait in line, and that of itself meant something really cool. And I think it just played into the whole mystique of all of it. And not only that, you created another kind of cheering section for what ultimately became the Stanton store, the full drive, and it's going to continue to evolve. And I think that's just part of the narrative. Yep. And I think it's awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about some potential new menu items that you have in the works, and what exciting things can patrons look forward to in the near future?
Well, we don't have a whole lot of new menu items per se that we're looking at to really push forward right now, because we have introduced quite a few quote unquote new Naugles menu items in the last couple of years, with the chicken club burrito, which has been, personally, it's my favorite menu item, but which has really found its own growth by itself. Our asada tacos, which are our street tacos, with our pico de gallo that we put across the top that we make in-house every single morning. Those kind of things that weren't on the original Naugles item list.
Yes.
But we also know that those are more popular staples now, especially the street tacos. And nobody's doing a chicken club burrito like we're doing it. I'm telling you, with that chicken and the bacon and everything. It's the
Tell them what's in it.
Okay, we have our chicken with bacon, our signature white sauce, lettuce and tomatoes,
and grated cheddar cheese.
And you roll it all together. My mouth is watering right now just talking about it. Instead of chicken, you can have it with steak, and our steak is very, very good as well.
The steak is good, yeah.
Yeah, the steak is really good. There was a lot of toying around, a lot of playing, a lot of badgering by Frank to make sure that we got the steak right and that everything was done the way it was.
I think all of us did it. Did it.
Yeah, okay, you weren't in the office. I'm telling you, Frank was badgering me every day to make sure that it was right, everything taken care of. And it's very good, because we marinate it and tenderize it at least 24 hours beforehand, so we make sure that we get the texture that we want. Even something like the street tacos, like I said, that wasn't available before, is on there. I don't really remember the nacho cheese sauce from the Naugles back in the day, because I don't think they actually had a cheese sauce. I think they actually put shredded cheese on top of things and then just steamed it and melted it. Our cheese sauce is all made in-house. It's only, 4 ingredients, but it's so good that, and we get a lot of comments. Even our chili, we just came out with a chili just a year ago, just over a year ago.
Our chili is the best in the industry. You will not find chili as flavorful, as meaty anywhere. And I'm not going to mention any other brands out there, but the ones that we know that serve chili dogs and chili burgers, and you will not find a better chili in the marketplace. And if you do, I want to know where it's at. We're going to taste it, and then we're going to improve our chili.
So now we know where Frank's favorite menu item is.
Yep. Well, the thing about it is the chili is a home run, and the French fries.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, the French fries paired with the chili, that's a home run.
It is. It's very, and then a little bit of that nacho cheese across the top of it. Oh, it's fantastic.
And the white sauce, that had some controversy in the beginning, but I think you've got quite a few converts on that.
Yeah, because it's not a ranch. It's almost like a Mexican ranch, but it's not. It's kind of our own little concoction. And you're right. There was a lot of people that just give us the sideways look for a little bit, and we're just like, just try it. You're gonna like it. Just try it. And once you get a couple people to try it, then they start passing it around, and it's really good.
And then they come up and ask for more white sauce.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I want to throw in there, and I'm not too sure if many people know this. A lot of people are getting to know this. That back in the day, most of the QSRs, quick service restaurants, Mexican themed, they would order their taco shells prefabricated by whatever manufacturer. We actually take a good quality corn tortilla on a daily basis, and we deep fry our own taco shells, so you get that real homemade flavor with our hard shell tacos, and as well as our tortilla chips. So not many people know that we do that, and we want people to know that they're getting that taco shell is not a prefab taco shell that's going stale after you've opened the bag up.
That's actually really impressive and a very good point. Definitely something for the marketing for sure. Naugles at the Beach opened in 2016. What can you share about the transition from a single location to a multi-location operation?
It just multiplies everything. I mean, obviously, everything. It seems that obviously the equipment, the employees, the food, everything doubles, triples, quadruples as you get bigger. But it also seems that because you're being exposed to a lot more people, and in people, especially in the location that we're at on the beach, that's their first time to be able to even try Naugles. You're talking about teenagers that are going to the beach with their friends who probably never heard of Naugles before because they were born after it went away. We're able to introduce ourselves to these people, and that's why having that location was very, very important to us, because not only are we introducing ourselves to people who would probably never heard of us before, but we're doing it in a location where they're going to have fun. They're in the middle of having a great time with their friends, and now they get to try the food and be introduced to something new all over again. So that was very important for us to have that location and be there to be in the middle of where the fun is. That was kind of a big deal to us. We're all a bunch of fun-loving guys that just want to go out and do a lot of our own things, and to be able to know that we can introduce Naugles to people who are just doing the same thing. They're going to the beach with their family. They're going to the beach with their friends. They're just skateboarding across the boardwalk. Never heard of us before. We're finally able to introduce ourselves to a generation that's never heard of us because we were gone before they were born.
And what's interesting about that location as well, not only the locals, is because we're situated right in between the Hyatt and the Hilton. We get a lot of, this year, of course, was a little bit challenging because of the tourism. Sure. The lack of tourism, I should say. But in the past years, we would have people, obviously come to Huntington Beach and stay at, their, 4.5 star hotels. And then they would go down to the beach. The Hilton offered their own patrons to be able to order through room service. They'd be able to order Naugles and then be able to put it on their room, charge it to the room. So that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, which gave us a little bit more of an advantage. But my point is, the second, the third, and the fourth year, and even this year, we have people that have come back and say, hey, this is where we like to come on vacation. And we came here the first year, had no idea what it was. We just came to have a bite to eat because we're at the beach and we wanted to get something to eat. And we cannot wait to come back to Huntington Beach to be able to come in and eat one of our, whatever their favorite is. So the beach location has been a very, very, very good spot for us.
Yeah, and to go back to your original question, what that we learn about transitioning to a multi-location chain is everything gets multiplied. It's not just our one little spot over in the corner now. It doesn't matter if we did have, even before Stanton opened up, it doesn't matter if we had a couple of drive-through. Every time you open up a location, everything gets multiplied because of the amount of people that you're going to be talking to, the amount of people that you're going to be serving. Any little problems that you had in your production, any little problems you had in your training, any things that need to be tweaked are now multiplied even more. You know, we could have, because we had such a good crew of people that worked with us over in the Fountain Valley location, we felt comfortable with putting them over there on the beach and know that we could be able to handle the volume. It's the retraining of new people. It was
Sure.
having eyes on multiple different areas at the same time, as opposed to just having to look out for this small little corner area over in this industrial area. Now you're looking at everything is multiplied. One little thing that, oh yeah, we'll just fix that. That's not a big deal. Now all of a sudden is a big thing because multiple people had that same problem and multiple customers had the issue and now you're like, okay, this needs to be addressed immediately. And you have to be able to stop on a dime and be able to take care of that. Whereas when you just had that one place that was open on the weekends because it was the test kitchen and we'll see how people like it. And if they don't like it, we could tweak it. Once you start going into multi-locations, little things become big very quickly. And that was something that's one of the things that we had to learn very quickly as well, because you're hitting many more people and now it's time to tighten your belt. And if it's not done correctly, it's just going to snowball into bigger problems. So you have to be able to stop on a dime and address the issues immediately because they are so much more multiplied.
Yeah, and Josh has been excellent at that. I mean, if you want to talk about a person that's been on call since the day I came to the company, which was back in 2015, October, he has been honestly the backbone. He has done an absolute phenomenal job, and it's hard to fathom how he can be in 4 places at one time, and he does it. He actually does. And so, you know, I think a lot of kudos goes to, you know, to Josh. I mean, Josh, and I'm not trying to ask for a raise here. I'm just being honest.
It's okay, Frank. We're going through COVID. You're not getting one.
No, it's a labor of love for sure. You can see it's apparent. Yeah, you know, I'm sure we all have goals at what motivates us, but the passion for the brand is evident in each of you. There's no question. Tell me, you know, earlier this year, I believe it was a Saturday, January 25th, the third location opened. And in that location, once again, after a long hiatus, Naugles began offering drive-thru service. Tell us a little bit about how the transition to supporting the operation with drive-thru service in the chain has developed, and what contributions has it, you know, brought into the chain. I can't imagine it hasn't been anything but spectacular during COVID, but tell us a little bit about your experience with the Stanton location coming on board.
Well, with our first location and obviously their beach location, there wasn't drive-through, so we really didn't have a whole lot of, I don't want to say a whole lot of training or experience in it, but there we knew where we were going to have to kind of point our direction to make sure that we were still efficient. That was going to be a big deal, is how do we maintain our efficiency? And I'm telling you, that very first day that we opened up, we weren't. We stumbled hard. We got hit very, very hard that first weekend. There was a lot of people that were very excited about Naugles having the first drive-through and the first, you know, sit-in restaurant and the you know, the almost like a flagship for us. And that response was extremely overwhelming. And we didn't have, because we just scraped every penny together to make sure that everything was right and it was put in there. When we opened up, there was a lot of our employees had their eyes wide open,
Sure,
or opened wide, because they didn't realize, even though we would go through training, okay, this is going to happen, until it actually happens, it really doesn't mean too much. You're like, okay, yeah, well, we'll do it. When you have 17, 18 cars in the drive-through that's going all the way out to Beach Boulevard because people are trying to get into that first drive-through of Naugles, and they're getting upset, and the first words out of their mouth, they're not pleasant words because they had to wait. And we're like, well, we apologize, but look at everybody that's here, and trying to prioritize, show, hey, look at, no matter what, drive-through gets priority first, sit-in gets priority second. There's a reason why they parked and they were able to come in and sit down. They have the time. The people in the drive-through, they want their food fast. They want to be able to order, get it, and get out. That's why it's priority. So when we had our employees would look at the clock and say, well, wait a minute, this person was waiting 6 minutes for their order. And I was like, I don't care. The drive-through still takes priority. They can wait 7 minutes, get this one out, get that one out, then go back. It's showing them how the priority should be and what was important to us of making sure the drive-through got in and out and making sure that the people that were inside the restaurant were comfortable, were happy, and they got what they needed at the same time was kind of a juggling act to a lot of employees that
Sure.
hadn't had to deal with that before. And so that was the real challenge of that first one. And I'm telling you, that first weekend, we were just doing it. We were going to do a soft opening. We were just going to say, hey, we're just going to be open for 12 hours. We want to make sure that these people get trained in a real life environment. And they got slammed. They got body slammed on the floor. And afterwards, we closed the doors. We started cleaning up. We started getting prep done for the next day, and they just like a deer in headlights. They just looked at us like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. We're like, yes, this is the way it's going to be. You've got to be able to be instead of panicking, be comfortable, do what needs to be, know what your responsibility is, do your job, and make sure you help somebody else do their job if it's necessary. And that kind of teamwork has really helped us.
That's awesome. Just awesome. I know that you got rolling, and then we had all this fun we had back in March. Tell us, what steps have you taken, and what would you like to share with us about all the things you've had to do to make sure that your employees, the patrons, the food, everything is safe, and that you still can truck on during the challenging times we have today?
Well, unfortunately, COVID really started to make attention and started to make waves 3 weeks after we opened up the drive-thru. So we spent all this time and all this money and everything to open up our first drive-thru, and we were so excited. And here we go, this is going to be a big deal. And literally 5 days later, the president stopped travel from China. 3 weeks after we opened, it's social distancing. Don't go to a place with a whole bunch of people, which is unfortunate for us because like I said, when we opened up, it was standing room only in the dining room out to the patio area, and we're taking pictures of it and putting it on social media. Come join the party. Come with us over at Naugles. And then all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, don't go to any place that has more than 20 people. And things just sank like a rock because everybody believed that, okay, it's going to constantly be busy over at Naugles. And so at that time, again, you're just going to have to be able to see what the situation is and be able to stop it on a dime and be able to change direction to make sure that you guys can be able to make sure that we can adapt and do what needs to be done. There was quite a few people. I mean, we hired, like 30 people in the middle of January. By the middle of February, we had to let go of,
oh wow,
a whole bunch of them. We had to let go of 21 people out of 30 people that we hired, just saying, sorry, until sales come back, this is what we're going to do. The state of California has these programs. We're actually going to be behind you. And we had forms for them to fill out so we could be able to do it to make sure that they got to the programs that they needed, and said, as soon as sales come back, we're going to be bringing you back because we already trained you. We're going to need you. And there was a lot more that needed to be done by us as an executive team. A lot of the deliveries, a lot of the food making, a lot of the going into the restaurant. Christian has been amazing about going into the restaurant and working the register because, hey, we're short on people, but it's going to get busy and we don't have the money right now because of sales over the 2 weeks.
Sure.
We need one of us to go in there and fill in, and Christian will jump in and be able, and he says, I'll take off. I'll go down to Fountain Valley. I'll work the register. I'll do this. And that was something that was extremely important to us, that we all had to say, okay, these are the responsibilities now that are on us because we don't have the money to pay people, but they still need to get done.
Yep.
So this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. Let's meet tomorrow morning and talk about it and get this taken care of. I mean, I was at Restaurant Depot every single morning for 7 days a week, making sure that the food that need to be bought, that need to be distributed was there. And, we're taking the deposits to the bank ourselves. We're making sure that bills got paid that needed to get paid. And it was a lot more responsibility on the executive team more than anything else. We just said,
yep,
if we're going to get through this, we're going to get through this as a team. Now let's push forward.
Yeah, there was definitely no executive sitting back and leaning back in their, $10,000 chairs, telling the Indians to work harder and jump higher, and go faster. It was the executive team had to pull together. And if it wasn't for I'm not trying to brag or anything, but if it wasn't for us stepping up and being able to be grassroots mentality in this time, then, expecting other people to do the job and us sitting back wondering, where's my paycheck, wasn't going to fly. It would never have flown.
No, I think that story can be told in a lot of businesses across the country and around the world. It's just something that I think true leaders need to do in these times, and I salute you for rolling up the sleeves and making sure that those people that are still on the payroll, can look forward to coming into work and having a secure environment. So thank you for that. September of 2016, Naugles announced that it had a tentative deal for an expansion. Can you share a little bit about the franchising opportunities that may lay ahead? I certainly understand that the world is ever evolving and deals have, their own lives, but talk in generality about the future for Naugles and its expansion plans with franchising and other areas of growth.
Franchising is something we're very excited to be able to strive towards and get towards. We thought that, especially when we did sign with FranSmart, this is going to, we're going to expand to, and even they said, dude, we can get you 1,000 units here soon. And we were like, this is going to be amazing. Until you step back and say, okay, how do we get food to 1,000 restaurants when we only have it going to 2 right now? How do we train 1,000 restaurants? It was, as we started looking at the logistics of it, we need to make sure that it is done the right way. And that was a big deal to us. So we haven't started franchising yet. FranSmart, we are still in contact with FranSmart, and we still talk to them about, hey, we're ready to go. We're ready to do this. We're ready to do that. This is an opportunity over here. And we're like, okay, we just got a new food distributor. We know they're going to be over in that area. We can do this, we can do that, but there's still a lot. It's the devil's in the details kind of things. You have to make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, but it is coming.
Well, and quite honestly, when you look back at the timing of that deal and the timing of, let's use Stanton, you're still in proof of concept back in those years, mm-hmm. and now you've rolled that forward, yes. And then we have COVID. I can understand why the timeline is what the timeline is, and in fairness, in the original announcement, I believe that the realm was really not 1,000, but perhaps maybe up to 100, with eventuality of getting to 1,000. So even in that, it was realistic, but it's a challenging transition for any business. Yep. To transition to a franchise model, and so you want to do it right, but it's good to hear that that's still something that is on the horizon.
Yeah, it is. And here's the other part about franchising that a lot of people don't realize, is having a good foundation, a good corporate foundation of good corporate restaurants is extremely important to get that started, because now you have, like I said, you have your logistics, you have your base, you have everything that you're doing for a multi-unit, multi-location area, which isn't all in the same city. And when we do franchising and somebody wants to do it out in Vegas, okay, now that's 4 hours away. How do we make sure that everything that we are doing right here is exact same that they're going to be doing 4 hours away, 6 hours away, 10 hours away, and making sure that we have the people in place. And especially with the curveball that COVID threw us, it's just not going to happen for a little while, but it is on the plans, and we are moving forward with it.
I imagine in that scenario, the phone call will be to Dan to go man the register.
That's true.
What about opportunities for investment? At this time, do you still have an avenue for potential investors to inquire about potential investment opportunities with Naugles, or is that all on hold right now?
I'll take this one, Frank. All right. Okay, no, I'm just playing. This is his apartment. He knows this back and forth.
So let me back up a little bit. You had asked in the previous question about what was the franchising and what was our corporate plan to expand. And so the plan is still the same, to expand to 10 to 15 corporate locations via our first A round. So let me tell you what we've been doing. We filed with the Security and Exchange Commission a Reg D 506C, yes, which is for accredited investors only. And I know some people have said, why is it only for accredited investors? And the reason is because we didn't want to just raise $5 million only on a Reg A to give it to people that weren't accredited. We wanted to be able to raise $10 million on our A round. So we're $4.125 million into a $10 million raise. We still are going forward. I will say when COVID hit February, everything got real quiet, and it's just picking back up as of yesterday, investments and people showing interest in getting back to normal. But we are offering equity in the company in the form of a preferred share. The shares are 25 cents. It's a minimum of a $25,000 investment. They can invest up to $3 million per individual investor, and there's a lot of potential. So at 25 cents, when we exit, and our plan to exit is really intentionally to go to a small cap market, but that's not to say we will go to a small cap market. But if we go to a small cap market, we have to be at a minimum of $4 or above per share. So you can see the potential return on a 25 cents to $4. That's pretty close to a 16-to-1 return right there, potentially.
Yes.
I would say. So if anybody is interested that's listening to this podcast in investing, there's a few different ways you can get a hold of me to discuss this. First way would be to go to NauglesTacos.com, go to our investment tab on our website. You would fill out the submission form. It's going to ask you once and twice, are you accredited? And when you click that 2 times, I'm going to think that the individual has read that and they're not non-accredited, still filling out the submission. The second way they can reach me is to contact me at the corporate office at 714-969-1000, extension 1702. Leave a message if I don't pick up the phone. The third way you can reach me would be to email me at frank.ferrini, that's F as in Frank, ERRINI, at NauglesTacos.com. Email me your telephone number and a good time to reach you, and I'll get back with you as soon as I get it. You get a hold of me. My cell phone 714-746-5398. I'll leave, Jim, and with your listeners to this. All of the 1%ers of this country, most of them, I would say about 85 to 90% have built their wealth on being in the right place at the right time in the beginning stage of a startup of some sort of company, industry, what have you. We believe that this is the right time for the right investors to be involved, to help us build this company and to grow the company and to also potentially make a very good return on your investment.
I really appreciate that. And I think the ability to raise money is definitely going to be dependent on how well you execute. And so far, you've got a great story, and the execution's been good, and I believe that the path is one that's achievable. So I wish you all the best as you head down those roads. Let me ask you, we already sort of touched on it, but lighten it up a little bit here. How about your individual favorite menu items? Anyone care to add from our earlier conversation? We kind of delved into this about some of the items on the menu that you each individually like.
Chicken Club Burrito and Noggle Burger. I'm telling you right now, Noggle Burger and Chicken Club Burrito. You put those, you put both of those in front of me, they're gone, and I'm not
the Noggle Burger.
Going to eat for another 2 days because they're so big, but I can't help myself. Sometimes I go inside there. The first time I walk, as soon as I walk in, I'm doing something like, hey, somebody make me a Noggle Burger. You got it. It gets thrown on the griddle right away.
That's awesome.
Honestly, I think we have really good food. It was a couple months ago I got something and ate it. I think maybe at the end of the shift at Fountain Valley, I got back home and told my wife, like, we really have good food. We all knew that, but it hit me again. But as far as particular items go, I eat everything, but I really like the pairing of the original crispy taco and the Ortega burger. You're getting a good range of flavors with those, and to me, they just pair well. Lots of other good items, too. Right now, I'm craving the chili fries.
Uh-oh.
Oh, those are good. Those chili fries are rocking. Well, I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to try to keep it under 5 items, okay? So the first one, back in the day when I used to go to Naugles when I was young, my 2 staples was the steak and egg breakfast burrito with green sauce. And the Ortega burger were my 2 items that's all I really ate at Naugles back in the, when I was a young lad. Now, I will tell you, our Ortega burger with added bacon on it, it's a very decadent tasting hamburger. And I'll tell you, anybody that hasn't had the Ortega burger and added the bacon, they need to try it. Of course, I still love the steak and egg breakfast burrito with the green sauce, but I also add an Ortega chili to that steak and egg.
Oh, that's interesting.
The other thing that I've really become fond of is, and I have Josh make it for me when he goes to the stores, and I know because he makes it perfect, is most people know our combo burrito as a ground beef burrito, the beans, the cheese, the sauce, and
right.
That's the, Naugles combo burrito is kind of a staple. Everybody knows that. Our combo burrito can come with either steak or chicken. So I get a combo burrito with steak, light on the beans, light on the cheese. I have them add an Ortega chili to it and green sauce. And I'll tell you what, that my mouth is actually watering talking to you about that now. So I'm going to leave it at those items. And I have many more to talk about, but I'll just leave it at those.
So Frank's Burrito, that's the one. Josh, tell us about the newfound stardom of the Naugles taco.
The taco is I mean, that was the very first thing that we knew that we had to nail. That was the one thing that, because the taco meat does go inside the burritos, it goes inside the bun tacos. So the taco meat we knew had to be right on point. And so we got contacted about a year and a half ago from Netflix saying that, we have this series out there called Taco Chronicles. It's a documentary that follows through Mexico about the different regions and why the different flavors of the different tacos as you're going through Mexico. And they were referred to us about the American taco. And so they came down and tried it, contacted us and said, we love it. We want you guys to represent the American taco on Netflix. And so if you go on Netflix right now, there's a show called Taco Chronicles on Volume 2. We're on Season 2, Episode 4, The American Taco. And we are actually the first featured American taco because they really enjoyed it that much.
We call it the OG taco, but our crispy ground beef taco is our biggest seller. Across the board, people love the taco. And I will say this, if I can embellish a little bit, Josh, the producer of the series, her name's Hallie, she was going into Texas after they filmed us and going across and doing some more. She emailed us back and said, we're all craving that taco of yours. And we thought she was just being complimentary and being kind and everything. And I joked with her. I said, come on, Hallie, you've had the most authentic tacos made from some of probably the best authentic hole in the walls in Mexico and Southern California, Texas. I mean, come on, really? And she said, no, you don't understand. Our whole crew has unanimously stated, you guys have the best taco that we've had. And we were blown away by it. I know, Christian, Josh, Dan, we all shared the same sentiments.
Correct.
And we're honored. We're absolutely honored and pretty excited that we made Netflix.
That's awesome. I saw the episode. It was awesome. You guys look so great. It was a really great feature for you guys. Even the Texas part, the whole episode was well done. And I saw some pictures of the crew filming at your location, and I was astonished by the number of their crew members. And it looked like the production was first rate, first quality, great piece. And again, so folks can see the show on Netflix, is that correct?
Netflix, Taco Chronicles, Volume 2, Episode 4. We don't want people just to watch Episode 4. We want them to watch the whole thing because the whole production is top notch. And I'm going to embellish a little bit about what you said about the crew. Top notch. I mean, we're talking impressive, but the nicest people, their whole crew that you would ever meet. The nicest people.
That's awesome. So where can our audience members go to learn more about Naugles, how to follow you online? Where can you direct them?
NauglesTacos.com. Remember the tacos in there, NauglesTacos.com. And then on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's at Naugles Tacos.
Perfect. And I'll put the links in the show notes as well. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
We're very proud of what we're doing. This has been a labor of love. Over the last 5 years, there has been great peaks, but very deep valleys as well. And it's been a labor of love for all of us. And we're very, very proud of what we're doing. And we've tried to put a little bit of each one of our personalities in this now. And I think you'll see that as you see some of our social media posts. You'll see us when we're at the restaurants. We're always at each one of the restaurants. We try to put a little bit of us in every single thing that we do there. And because it does mean so much to us. And we are not going anywhere.
That's awesome.
We're going to take this thing as far as we can take it. And we're extremely proud of that.
Thank you, Jim, for having us on. I do remember talking to you years ago, 6, 7 years ago. And I think you were even suggesting Original Pancake House as a place that we could do a pop-up event at. And that was being considered. There were a couple other places being considered. And then it was Dan who actually sent out a text that was pretty distinct. He goes, forget every place that we've talked to about potentially doing a pop-up event. I found the place. And that place was what ended up becoming the test kitchen.
That's awesome.
And along with the chef that helped us recreate the recipe.
Yes.
So thank you.
So final thought is this, there was a Los Angeles Times article, and we all crack up about it. The title of the article was Before Cell Phones There Used to Be Naugles. And again, I'll reiterate, we had a meeting, it was just yesterday actually, and Christian brought up the term that Naugles was the original social network, and it's where people gathered. It was known for that. And so, the evolution into the electronic age and all that happening and moving in that direction has been vast. And just last night, I was talking to some of our younger employees and asking, I really need to tap into your thinking of how do we get the next generation, the 10, the 15-year-olds, the 18-year-olds, what is going to attract them to come to us? And so we constantly are working together. Josh, Dan in marketing, Christian, Christian's a lot of thought into this. It's been a labor of love. And I will say this, that, us, the executives here, we become like brothers, and brothers fight a lot, and we love each other and we laugh and we cry. But this team has been awesome, and everybody has their place in this company to help propel this thing into being a billion-dollar company, which we're going to build this company to be a billion-dollar company.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's really been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed learning more about Naugles. I've been a fan way back in my early years, and I'm so glad to have the opportunity to share that with my family today and our colleagues. Like I said earlier, talking about the Naugles episode, I've been just slammed with when is it going to post? When is it going to post? So the enthusiasm continues. Thanks so much. It's really been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, everyone.
And now here's Sabrina to tell us about our next episode.
In our next episode, we welcome Dean Marash, the owner of SoCal Classic Car Storage and host of the SoCal Car Scene podcast, to talk about the trends in the car scene today. Dean will share about his bustling car storage business, including describing some of the many cool cars and trucks he keeps safe for his clients when they are not enjoying their classic or exotic rides. We will also learn about the weekly podcast show, SoCal Car Scene, that Dean and his son Jason produce, which features interesting movers and shakers in the ever-evolving car scene here in Southern California. Some of the topics we will discuss include where the hobby is heading and what Dean's thoughts are on some of the future trends he believes we will see in the automotive world in the coming years. In addition to telling us about his clients' cars, we will learn about some of the cars that Dean has in his eclectic private car collection. Please join us as we feature SoCal Classic Car Storage and the SoCal Car Scene podcast on the next episode of the Hamburgers and Hot Rods podcast.
Well, we've come to the end of our 5-part series on Southern California's drive-thru restaurant pioneers. We hope you enjoyed our endeavor of sharing the story of the progression of this segment of fast food service over the years. It's interesting to note how these 5 Southern California entrepreneurs played key roles in fostering the development of this modern-day food service operational method that continues to remain as popular as ever. I want to thank each of the Naugles leadership team members, Josh, Frank, and Christian, for spending time with us today and sharing the very latest news about their nostalgic homegrown brand. That's it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed your time with us today. You can visit us online at hamburgers&hotrods.com. There you can check out our show notes, listen to our complete show library, or watch the YouTube video versions of each of our shows. You can also check out all of the various podcast platforms where our show can be heard. Until next time, thanks for listening. We'll see you then.